Welcome to the Cozy Noah Vibes. I'm your host, Nina. Thank you for choosing to join us. Before we begin, find a comfortable position and set aside all tasks. Let's enter a state of calm together. First, let's take a deep breath. Inhale slowly. Then exhale gently. Repeat a few times. Deepen and regulate your breath. Now use your senses to feel every part of your body. Notice any tension or discomfort. Simply acknowledge their presence. Don't try to change them. As you continue to breathe deeply, let's gradually release the tension in your body. Starting from the head and moving downward, gently releasing each muscle. Feel the comforting lightness. We also read a small plastic snake and a big toy frog for the chance. Gently embracing you. Shift your focus to your thoughts. Don't try to eliminate them. Just let them drift by quietly. Like clouds drifting in the sky, you are merely an observer, unaffected by these thoughts. Let's take another deep breath, absorbing the peaceful and serene energy. In this moment, you are safe and tranquil. Anything can wait until tomorrow. Thank you for participating in tonight's scientific relaxation moment. May you have a peaceful night. Now, as you drift off to sleep, we also need a small plastic snake and a big toy frog for the chance. In a valley below lay a forest. Beside the forest stood a cottage. In this cottage lived a woodcutter and his two children, a boy named Hansel and his sister Gretel. The woodcutter was a very poor man. Jobs were scarce, and his days were hard. He couldn't even earn enough to feed his family every day. So the children often went hungry. Despite their difficult circumstances, Hansel and Gretel remained spirited. They never complained. They could see how much their father loved them, how hard he worked even if his efforts didn't bring much reward. One night, after the children had gone to bed, the woodcutter sat by the fire talking to his wife. This woman was Hansel and Gretel's stepmother, a wretched woman, always eager to rid herself of the children at any opportunity. "Oh, wife," the woodcutter said, "I can barely support you and myself, let alone the children. What are we to do?" "I know what to do," she said, a wicked smile playing on her lips. The woodcutter said, "Tomorrow morning, I will take the children deep into the forest, to the thickest part, and leave them there to feed the wolves. Then they won't bother us anymore, and your wages can support us. We can rid ourselves of this dreadful life of poverty." The stepmother said, "Feed them to the wolves." The woodcutter repeated in horror, "I have never heard such nonsense in my life." "You fool," she retorted, "then we shall all perish. You go chop wood for our coffins." The woodcutter said nothing. Hansel and Gretel, with empty stomachs, couldn't sleep. They heard everything, especially the part about being abandoned by the wolves, which terrified them both. "What will happen to us?" Hansel, Gretel sniffled, wiping away tears. "Don't cry, Gretel, go little. I know exactly what to do." They lay quietly until the adults had all fallen asleep. When all was quiet, Hansel rose, donned his coat, and slipped out, careful not to wake anyone. The moonlight was bright, illuminating the garden. Hansel surveyed his surroundings intently, then had looked for something beyond. Without hesitation, he began picking up the white pebbles from the garden path. He continued stuffing things into his pockets until they were full, then returned to bed. The next morning, there came a knock on the bedroom door. "Get up, you lazy good-for-nothings," the stepmother called. "You need to gather kindling with me in the forest. Hurry up for something beyond this." "Smart ones." Hansel and Gretel got up. The stepmother handed Gretel a piece of bread, saying, "This is your lunch. It's for both of you and must last you the whole day. So don't eat it all at once. You won't get more." Gretel took the bread, and they headed into the forest. Hansel seemed preoccupied. Every few steps, he would turn back, saw something beyond his or something, as if searching for something. This odd behavior did not escape the stepmother's notice. "Why do you keep stepping back and looking behind?" she snapped, clearly irritated. "I saw a cat," Hansel said. "I'm checking if it's still following us." "Very well. Child, hurry up," she said sharply. "We don't have time for such childish things." Hansel lied he hadn't seen a cat. He stayed behind, dropping the white pebbles he had collected the previous night onto the ground behind him as they walked. They continued walking. After quite some time, they found a clearing. "Come," "Children," the stepmother said, "gather some sticks. I will make a fire. It's getting colder, and you need a rest." Hansel and Gretel gathered sticks. After the fire was lit, the stepmother said, "Children, sit down and rest. When we're done for the day, your father and I will return." Then, without a moment's hesitation, she hurried off. Hansel and Gretel sat by the crackling fire and ate bread. Gretel's bread was already a bit stale, but they were too hungry to notice. After devouring the bread, they quickly grew tired and fell asleep. Several hours passed, and Gretel woke with a start. "It's dark," she exclaimed. No sign of the stepmother or father. "Oh, Hansel, I'm so scared. What should we do?" "Don't be afraid, dear sister," Hansel said softly. "I have a plan to get us safely home." The full moon shone brightly in the night sky. "See," Hansel pointed ahead. As the light fell upon the path ahead, the white pebbles Hansel had dropped glimmered in the darkness. "Brilliant," Gretel exclaimed. "You laid the pebbles to guide us home." "Oh, you're such a clever brother," Hansel smiled. Hand in hand, they walked through the night and returned home at dawn. The stepmother, upon seeing them safely back, something beyond safely back, flew into a rage. Her wicked plan had failed. The following year did not improve matters. In fact, as the stepmother had anticipated, their situation had worsened considerably. Now in despair, there was only half a loaf of bread left in the pantry. Something must be done, the stepmother thought. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, the stepmother stayed up late devising her evil plan. "I've got it," she exclaimed. "This time, I'll take them deep into the forest. I know just the place. They'll never find their way back home. The wolves will devour them, and I'll be able to live a peaceful and prosperous life." Hansel and Gretel's empty stomachs kept them awake once again. They heard everything once more, and just like before, Hansel waited until the stepmother had gone to bed before sneaking out the front door. But to his horror, the door was locked, and when he returned to bed, there were no pebbles in his pockets. Sinking his heart, the next morning, bright and early, the stepmother burst into their bedroom, dragging the children out of bed, shouting, "Get up, something beyond this, you lazy, stinking brats. After dressing, she gave each of them a small piece of bread, what remained of the loaf, and they set off into the forest. Hansel tucked his piece of bread into his pocket. As they walked, Hansel occasionally stopped, breaking off crumbs and tossing them onto the ground, just as he had with the pebbles. They continued walking. As they went on, the path grew narrower. The trees became denser, thick, in fact, so dense that they could barely see a few yards ahead. One thing was certain: Hansel's breadcrumb trail would be of no help here. Finally, they arrived at the darkest part of the forest. The stepmother halted. "Wait here, children," she said, shoving beyond us, her voice dripping with malice. "I need to chop some wood. Sit down and don't move." Hansel and Gretel obeyed, a fear gnawed at their insides. Hours passed, and there was still no sign of the stepmother. "I think she's left us here to die," Gretel whispered. "Don't worry, Gretel, go a goal, Gretel," Hansel replied, trying to sound braver than he felt. "I'll think of something. Just you wait and see." The sun began to set, casting eerie shadows through the trees. That's when they heard a low growling, followed by a rustling in the bushes. "Wolves," Gretel whimpered, clutching her brother's arm. But Hansel stood tall, his mind racing. Just then, he spotted something glimmering in the fading light. "Look," he said, pointing toward the ground. There, amidst the fallen leaves and twigs, were breadcrumbs, the remnants of their meager meal. Gretel's eyes widened. "You left a trail, just like before." Hansel nodded. "We may not be able to find our way home, but at least we won't starve." Taking courage from their newfound hope, they followed the breadcrumb trail deeper into the forest, their hearts bounding with fear and anticipation. Little did they know that their ordeal was far from over. As we conclude our time together, may the serenity of this moment linger with you through the night. You hold the power to create your own dreams, filled with wonder and possibility. We also made a small plastic slate and a big toy frog for the kids, knowing that tomorrow holds endless opportunities for growth and joy. Until we meet again, sleep well and embrace the beauty of your own imagination. Good night and sweet dreams.